People don't always test your boundaries directly. They test them quietly, through small behaviors, small requests, small disrespect signals. And most of the time, they are not even fully aware they are doing it. But here is what most people miss. The test is not in what they do. The test is in how you respond. Let me repeat that because this is the key to everything we are going to cover today. The test is never the behavior itself. The test is always your reaction. And if you do not understand this, you will keep losing respect, without ever understanding why. This is not opinion. This is behavioral psychology. Research on social dominance theory and interpersonal boundary regulation shows that humans are neurologically wired to test social limits, just as animals test territorial boundaries. Your boundaries are not just preferences. They are information signals. And people are constantly reading them. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone show up late to a meeting with you, make a joke that felt slightly off, ask you for a favor with a tone that felt demanding, or dismiss your opinion in a group setting, and you felt something inside you tighten? But you said nothing. You let it pass. That moment, right there, was not nothing. That was a data point. And the person on the other side? Their brain filed it away. Think about the last time someone disrespected you. Not the big blow-up. The small moment. The one that felt too small to address. I want you to hold that in your mind as we move forward. Because by the end of this episode, you will understand exactly what happened in that moment, and what you can do differently next time. Every social interaction, every single one, has an invisible question underneath it. What can I get away with here? Not everyone thinks this consciously. Most people never verbalize it. But behavior, when you study it closely, follows this pattern automatically. Psychologists call this social probing behavior. It is the human equivalent of testing ice thickness before stepping onto a frozen lake. You take a small step. You observe. You adjust. The brain is constantly doing this in social contexts. Make a small move, watch the response, modify future behavior. This is not manipulation. This is social navigation. And the problem is, most people never learn to control step 2. They react emotionally, or they suppress entirely, and both send the wrong signal. Why does this person keep pushing my buttons? The answer might be uncomfortable. Because your buttons are easy to find, and you keep showing exactly where they are. Most people assume boundaries are set by speaking. You need to respect me. This is not okay. I need you to stop. And those words, they have their place. But here is the truth. Boundaries are not defined by what you say once. They are defined by what you consistently allow. Let me say that again because this is the foundation of everything. Your boundary is not what you say. Your boundary is what you tolerate. Imagine someone interrupts you during a conversation. You say, "Please don't interrupt me." 3 minutes later, they interrupt again. What is your boundary now? Most people will say their boundary is clear because they spoke it. But behaviorally, their boundary is unclear because they allowed the violation without consequence. This maps directly to operant conditioning principles. Behavior that is rewarded repeats. Behavior that is ignored continues. Behavior that is met with a clear, consistent response adjusts. If you say one thing but tolerate another, people will always believe your tolerance, not your words. Think about this in your own life. How many times have you said something is not okay, and then stayed quiet when it happened again? That silence taught the other person more than your words ever did. Here is a pattern I want you to notice. Boundary testing rarely starts big. It starts small. A slightly late reply to your message, a small joke at your expense, a minor interruption while you are speaking, a request with mild pressure attached, a decision made without consulting you, a plan changed without asking. Individually, each of these feels like nothing. You would feel dramatic for addressing any one of them. But here is what happens. These small behaviors are not random. They are data collection. The person testing you is not trying to hurt you. They are trying to understand you. They're asking, if I push here, what happens? If I take this much space, do you fill it? If I cross this line, do you hold it? And your response, every single time, gives them the answer. I want you to think back to that moment I asked you to hold earlier. The small disrespect. Was it really small? Or was it the beginning of a pattern you did not notice until it grew? This is why psychologists describe boundary testing as a calibration mechanism. It is how people find their position relative to you. And if you do not calibrate back, the position will always be set in their favor. Let me give you a framework that will change how you see every interaction. Social behavior is adaptive. That means people do not behave the same way with everyone. They behave based on what works. Think of your boundaries like a map. Every interaction draws a new line on that map. What annoys you, red flag; what you ignore, green light; what you accept, open territory; what you resist, border checkpoint; what you overreact to, unstable zone. Over time, people build a behavior model of you. Not consciously, not maliciously, but automatically, The way your brain learns the layout of a room you walk through every day. And here is the uncomfortable part. If your map is unclear, people will not stop exploring. They will keep pushing. Not because they are bad people, but because uncertainty invites testing. Have you ever met someone who just commanded respect the moment they walked in? Without saying anything? Without being aggressive? That is not magic. That is clarity. Their map is clear. And people read it instantly. Let me walk you through how this develops in real life. I want you to visualize this. Scenario: you are in a group conversation. Someone makes a small comment about you. Not cruel. Not obviously offensive. Just slightly dismissive. Oh, that's such a typical John's thing to say. Maybe they smile when they say it. Maybe others laugh. And now, you have a choice. If you laugh along, what does that signal? It signals tolerance. The person's brain notes, this territory is accessible. And next time, the comment will be slightly sharper. If you say nothing, what does that signal? It signals acceptance. The person's brain notes, no resistance here. And the behavior becomes a pattern. If you get visibly upset, what does that signal? It signals instability. The person's brain notes, this area is reactive. And here is the counterintuitive truth. Emotional reactions often increase testing, because people want to see if the reaction is consistent, or if it depends on their mood. If you pause, make eye contact, and say, I am not sure what you meant by that, but it did not land well with me. What happens? The person's brain notes, clear limit, stable response, and future behavior adjusts. Be honest with yourself. Which option do you usually choose? Most people choose one or two, and then wonder why they feel disrespected. This is one of the most important things you will learn about boundaries. Strong boundaries are not emotional. They are consistent. Research in interpersonal neuroscience shows that emotional volatility triggers vigilance in others. When you react unpredictably, people do not know where the line is. So they test more to find the line through trial and error. The more emotionally you defend your boundaries, the more people test them, because emotion signals uncertainty, and uncertainty invites exploration. Think about the most respected person you know. Do they get angry when someone crosses a line? Or do they simply state the line and hold it? Respected people do not react. They respond. There is a difference. Reaction is automatic, emotional, uncontrolled. Response is deliberate, measured, intentional. And people can feel the difference. I want you to try something this week. The next time someone pushes a boundary, do not react. Breathe. Then respond with 3 words. That does not work for me. No explanation. No emotion. No justification. Just clarity. Watch what happens. Here is something that might change how you see past situations. Most people do not decide to disrespect someone. They learn what is allowed. Not through malicious intention. Through experience. If a behavior works without consequence, it repeats. If a behavior is met with resistance, it adjusts. This is the law of effect in behavioral psychology. Behaviors followed by satisfying consequences are more likely to recur. Behaviors followed by unsatisfying consequences are less likely to recur. It is that simple. Now, think about someone who has disrespected you. Ask yourself, did I teach them that this was allowed? Not through intention, but through tolerance. I know this is uncomfortable to consider. It is easier to believe they are bad people. And maybe some of them are. But more often, they are just people who learned, from your responses, that certain behaviors were acceptable. The good news? If they learned once, they can unlearn. But only if you change the teaching. Boundary testing is not just about disrespect. It is often about measuring status. People subconsciously ask, is this person firm or flexible, stable or reactive, clear or confused, high status or low status? And uncertainty invites testing. Clarity reduces it. Research in social hierarchy formation shows that groups naturally test members to determine position. This is not toxic. It is innate. Every group, from corporate teams to friend groups to families, has a hierarchy. And boundaries are how that hierarchy is negotiated. The people who get tested the most? The ones who send mixed signals. One day firm. One day flexible. One day reactive. One day passive. Their boundaries are unclear. So people keep probing to find the edges. The people who get tested the least? The ones who are predictably firm, consistently calm, emotionally stable, clear about what they accept. Their boundaries are visible from a distance. And people do not test what they can already see. Let me be direct with you. Here is the uncomfortable truth you have to sit with. Some people are not disrespecting you intentionally. They are simply learning how far your limits go. And that might be harder to accept than believing they are bad. Because if they are bad, you are the victim. But if they are just learning from your responses, then you are responsible for what they learn. I know this is a heavy thing to hear, but stay with me, because the solution is coming, and it is simpler than you think. The moment you respond consistently, without emotional overreaction, without silent resentment, without passive acceptance, the testing usually decreases. Not because people change instantly, because the signal becomes clear. Think of it like a radio frequency. When the signal is fuzzy, people adjust the dial, constantly testing to find clarity. When the signal is clear, people stop adjusting. They lock in. They know where they stand. You have likely experienced the other side of this. Have you ever met someone whose boundaries were so clear that you never even considered crossing them? You just knew. That is the goal. Not to be intimidating, to be readable. So let me give you the boundary clarity framework. 5 steps you can apply starting today. Step 1. Define your limits before they are tested. Most people react instead of preparing. Take 5 minutes today to ask yourself, what are 3 things I will no longer tolerate? Write them down before the test comes. Step 2. Pause before you respond. The gap between stimulus and response is where your power lives. When you feel a boundary being pushed, do not react immediately. Take 1 breath, 1 pause, then respond, not react. Step 3. Use calm, simple language. You do not need a speech. You need clarity. That does not work for me. I am not available for that. I need you to rephrase that. Step 4. Follow through without emotion. This is where most people fail. They set the boundary once, then let it slide. Consistency is not about being harsh. It is about being reliable. Every time the line is crossed, the same response. Step 5. Let your actions teach. Remember, your words tell people what you want. Your actions tell people what you accept. People believe your actions. Make sure they are teaching the right lesson. So let me leave you with this. Boundaries are not built through aggression. They are built through calm responses, consistent reactions, clear limits, and emotional control. You do not need to prove your boundaries to anyone. You only need to maintain them. Here is my challenge to you. This week, notice 1 small boundary push. 1 moment where someone tests the line. And instead of reacting, instead of ignoring, instead of laughing it off, respond with calm clarity. See what happens. Not because you need to be controlling, but because you deserve to be respected. And respect often starts with showing people exactly where you stand. Most people spend their lives reacting to boundaries they never set. Don't be most people. Thank you for being here. See you in episode 18.